This is Cinematic Suffering with your hosts, Clay Hintz and Jason Thomas. Life is pain, and so are bad horror movies. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Cinematic Suffering. I'm here with my fellow co-host.
I'm Clay, everybody.
And I am Jason, and we are the ones who are suffering through all this, and hopefully you are joining us in our current adventure to get through all these films.
We are reviewing all the horror films on Netflix alphabetically, and the rule is, regardless of if we've seen it before, regardless of how little we might want to watch it, we're going to watch this and review it. So today we are in the third film in the 1920 series. It's an Indian horror franchise that was pretty popular with its demographic, I'm finding out.
You said a third film? I thought
it is the third film, yes. The second one was 1920 something. I can't remember the tagline, but it was received with less fanfare than the first one. People didn't like it as much as the first one.
So that's why they probably put the more popular one onto Netflix, I guess.
Yeah, and I get the feeling from the two that we've watched that continuity isn't a real big thing. I think these films are pretty much self-contained. They're not linked together in any significant way.
Yeah, that's what I saw as well.
Yeah, there's the theme of possession comes up, so it's kind of fun. Like, we were both kind of going into this with some trepidation, and it turned out to be pretty entertaining to watch these, I thought.
Yeah, the 1920 was entertaining, but I think 1920 London kind of amped it up just a little bit.
Yeah, if 1920 was The Exorcist, then this one was more The Evil Dead, with a lot more singing and dancing, of course. It came out in 2016. It was directed by Tinu Suresh Desai, and it's starring Shaman Joshi, Meera Chopra, and Vishal Karwal.
Yeah, and we have no idea who these actors are. We just know that these are all very pretty people.
Yes, they are. Yeah, the star of this one, I think her name is, I think that's Meera Chopra, is really pretty. Yeah, she's hot. I found her even more appealing than Lisa from the previous 1920 movie we reviewed. This one was just constipated with plot, so we'll try to slog through this. I took some notes. Hopefully what we're saying doesn't sound like completely bananas, because the movie itself was pretty bananas.
Yeah, well, you sent me your initial notes, and there are really only a few in there, and I was kind of surprised because I was already an hour into the film myself, and I had already taken so many copious notes that,
yeah,
and I was like, am I missing something? I was like, this movie already an hour in is packed with so much plot and information and exposition and singing and dancing, and
my note-taking procedure is kind of all over the place, but yeah, I've never seen a movie that's so packed with plot. It was just, it hurls plot development at you like a machine gun. So let's see if we can jump in here. So I'll get us kicked off here.
Sure.
The movie starts off with our main character is Shivanjee. Am I saying her name right? Shivangi. Shivangi.
Shivangi? Let's go with Shivangi. Sure.
Shivangi is that's our lead character, and she's a princess. So we're right off the bat, we're dealing with Disney animated movie logic. So she's a princess, and she goes to meet her family that all look like I don't know, how would you describe them? They look like Indian characters in a Disney princess movie.
They look like Indian characters, a cross between a Disney movie and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
They look like the guy that you buy elixirs off of in video games. That's kind of what they all look like. So she goes and meets with her royal family. They're in this ostentatious house, and she tells them that there's a problem with her husband, and then we are greeted to a flashback of her and her husband, Veer. Right,
so we flash back to London now. And then I think we jump right into like a happy formal dance. Is this where?
Oh, yes.
This is where we first see one of our first many montages showing the happy couple, Veer and Shivangi, feeding each other grapes
and canoodling in the park. Kisses, the whole 9 yards of delirious romantic happiness. Pants-shittingly happy.
Yeah, and I was immediately taken with it, and I was like, oh, this is lovely. I hope we get to see more throughout the film.
God forbid we don't have. If you're making a drinking game out of this about any time there's a song or dance number, then you're already fucked up. So
And I think this is where 1920 failed miserably with just their one big singing and dancing number.
Yes.
With only the occasional video montage, 1920 London takes everything from 1920 and ramps it up to 10.
Oh, it's like I said. I think that the best metaphor is it's Exorcist to the Evil Dead. Like it takes that same kind of shark jump. So we've got some singing and dancing right off the bat. What comes next? It shows them canoodling in the park, and then Veer falls ill. We're shown the first important plot device of the movie. We see this bedside table with a locket on it. And in quick order, Veer is possessed by this evil ring-looking witch demon lady.
Yeah, there's a mysterious amulet. We see kind of this dark energy dripping from it. And I want to say there's even that we jump into the credits from here, and then there's like another happy music video. I can't really describe it. It's really weird.
God, weird sums it up. It's surreal. It's otherworldly weird, this movie.
So we see the credits. We see the couple lying in bed afterwards, and mysterious dark mist drifts out of the amulet, and the husband Veer wakes up, and he searches around the house. You hear the sound of children laughing creepily. There's a ghostly rocking chair that he finds, and then Veer steps in front of the ghostly rocking chair, and it stops. And what appears behind Veer but
the witchy character of this? She looks right out of the Ring. She's got ethereal, creepy, black, smoky hair that's looks like she's underwater. That whole thing, that old chestnut.
Yeah, and for some reason, I thought the husband looked like an Indian Jason Priestley for some reason.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, if you don't have the bravery to actually watch this movie, just imagine an Indian Jason Priestley, and you've got it. Yeah, I think it's right out of 90210.
This is all these. You can hear a lot of '90s references in this.
And I feel like I should say right off the bat, just warning: all of our reviews are spoiler filled. This one in particular, if you have any interest in watching it, you might want to watch it before you listen to the rest of this, because it's full of plot twists, and we're about to ruin them all. And then some of them were actually pretty fun.
Yeah, exactly. And especially this first half of it was really interesting.
Yeah, like I liked how at this point in the movie, he just like, okay, I got up, I heard children screaming and crying and laughing creepily. I see the ghostly chair rocking on its own momentum. I think I'm just going to go to bed. I just need to sleep this off. That is the last time I eat a handful of magic mushrooms before I go to sleep.
Okay, so in the obviously he gets possessed by the spirit because it looks like she goes into him or something happens.
Yeah, she just kind of I guess it's really easy for demons to possess people. So the husband Veer gets possessed. He's throughout this movie, he's basically just a vehicle for a demon possession. We don't know much about him other than he's successful and he's got a hot wife. So we cut back to the royal family. There's a lot of timeline jumping in this thing too to really make it even tougher to keep up with. But the royal family says that we need to travel to Baba to see a guru, which basically means we need to go on a quest to talk to a wizard. That's
right, exactly.
I know a fucking wizard when I see one.
And there's another wizard coming up later in the film
who's even more wizardy.
Yeah.
So so they go to see this guru, they call him, but it's a wizard.
Right.
And they go and talk to him, and he gives them kind of the free consultation that you get with every guru meeting.
Right. So they back up just a little bit. We see in the morning that Veer was experiencing seizures after this episode, and they take him to a fancy mansion hospital. And I noticed this in both 1920 and this. There's a lot of fancy mansion. There's a fancy mansion parliament. There's a mansion hospital. There's a mansion where they live.
and they have a mansion hospital. It's the royal family gets treated in comfort. You got to feel at home.
I have to say that I thought this was connected to 1920. And when I see the mansion at the beginning of this movie, I thought, oh, well, they did turn it into a hotel, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Those architects have to make money. They had to feed the house quite a few architects before they were able to get it demolished, but it finally worked. But yes, so thank you for that. That's Veer is showing signs of being very sick. He falls ill in the morning. They rush him to the hospital, and the so we bounce back to the current timeline. Shivangi is still confabbing with her royal family, and they say we got to go see this guru. So they travel and they go and see the wizard. He sets up this mirror that he's going to use to communicate to the spirit world, or see if figure out how much copay that the Veer needs to pay. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but it's a plot device to get to the next bit of exposition.
Right. So there's some exposition about the evil spirits entering the world from the witch doctor, or the I don't know, maybe they call him a baba as well. That might be another word in Indian for witch doctor. But
maybe there's some kind of hierarchy to you're a first level wizard, then you're a 10th level wizard.
And the baba, or the witch doctor, he is in front of the mirror and he starts chanting, and lots of CGI crows show up that are somewhat better than Birdemic, but not by much.
Just a little bit. They upgraded the bird making CGI suite. It's the newest update, but it's almost Birdemic levels. I love how in these movies birds have the ability to hover. I've only seen hummingbirds do that, but in this one a crow can do it.
Hey, whenever I've seen crow attacks, they dive bomb, dude.
They dive bomb and they explode or puke acid.
And so we see the evil spirit grabs the witch doctor and pulls him into the mirror, then throws his ass out.
He gets schooled quickly. He failed his saving throw, and so the Baba, the mage, the maestro, the wizard, whatever you want to call it, he says, I do not have the power to fight this demon. Y'all need to go and you need to see the Baba of Miwar. And he says, your family's going to be very familiar with this guy. And they all look at each other. So,
ooh, foreboding.
From here, okay, basically they say you got to go and you got to talk to the all-powerful wizard. And then we cut to our other leading character, which is Jai. So that we meet Jai.
And Jai makes an entrance like a boss. He just comes marching in like some action movie character.
Yeah, imagine imagining a plunging neckline, bearded, brooding, Persian Harry Potter. You can tell he just thinks he's going to dominate Takuchi when he goes to the club.
And he's walking with a strut and this style about him, and you know he's about to fuck some shit up with some exorcism.
He's straight out of an anime. Like if an anime was made by Indian people, it's this guy. He's like the prime conjurer. He's got this, man, a few words. He's down to business. He's basically, when we first meet him, his power is established because he's gonna excise a demon out of this guy's daughter.
Right, and this girl is tied to the bed. He just marches into the bedroom and just sees this girl tied to the bed, and she does her usual exorcist tropes, I guess, where she calls him a loser. Oh, you're such a loser. Get out of here. You're not going to exorcise me. Go on.
Only she says it with the growling Evil Dead, guttural snarl. I think she insults his manhood at some point. I don't remember. Well, it seemed very Evil Dead to me. She had the milky eyes of somebody in the throes of some bad demon possession.
Yeah, my impression was only a taste of what it could have been if I had been in that role.
Yeah, you got to really throw yourself into it. She was doing it a little bit half-hearted. It's the scene where he you know what you're in for immediately, because the scene of him getting this demon out of this girl is just so over the top. There's just backflips and kung fu, and everything's lit in this garish red light, and lips are getting peeled back from the amount of magic being exerted. It was delightful.
Yeah, in usual 1920 exorcism fashion, we just see just a total all-out action scene of Jai just beating the shit out of this demon, and then the demon beating the shit out of him, and it keeps going back and forth. And I was very pulled into the film at this point.
I was like, I felt excited. Like I felt a certain amount of energy at this point. Like, oh, we're gonna have fun with this one. So yeah,
I liked it. I liked that they started off with this.
Yeah, they let you know right away that we're gonna keep you entertained, confused but entertained.
And in the end, of course, Jai does save the girl, but he doesn't want any payment. Just so weird. He just wants a weird, creepy invite to the wedding, though.
Yeah, like, how about we pay you and you don't come to the wedding?
Yeah, I was about to say, if I was the father or something, say, no, here, please, take this payment and don't show up at our wedding all creepy like.
No, it'd be like if her psychiatrist that kept her from slitting her wrist shows up. We appreciate your help, but you remind us of her ailment. So where are we at now? My God, this thing was plot heavy. So
right. Okay. Well, Shivangi's uncle does show up and tries to convince Jai to come meet with a princess, but he doesn't want to because at this point we didn't know that Jai and Shivangi had a fling in the past.
Yeah, it's confusing at first. Like he's like, "Don't ever come back here again. I don't want to help your princess." And I was thinking, like, why? Yeah. Do you have a problem with people that actually have money to pay you? Your business model sucks, Jai.
And we do another happy music video where we see Jai singing and thinking of times we and the princess were awesome. And
yeah, just in a movie filled with high benchmarks, this is one of them. He shatters the fourth wall by singing not to us but at us. There's aggressive singing. We're treated to a montage of him, and it's revealed that he and Shivagi had a relationship, and it shows nauseatingly happy montage where he's singing and they're strolling through the park and they're hanging out with farm animals, for Christ's sake. He's carrying one on his shoulder, a lamb.
I was busting out laughing at that part because you see her waving a stick at the sheep or the sheep, like she thinks she knows what she's doing, but she's just kind of scaring the sheep. And in the back you see Jai with a lamb over his shoulder, smiling at her, and I just thought,
it's like Indian Jesus.
I was in tears. It was so amazingly funny.
You know, when I go on a date and I'm hanging around with a princess that's got very expensive clothes on, I like to slog through the sheep shit in the sheep orchard, or whatever you call the sheep.
The sheep orchard. Yeah, I think you got it. It's correct.
The place where sheep tend to congregate. It was bananas. Like they were dancing. They were doing this coordinated dance where they'd look at each other. They make it clear that these two were just nauseatingly in love.
Yeah. And then we see the creepy uncle shows up.
Yes, this guy has sex criminal oozing out of his pores.
I should state that it's not Shivangi's blood uncle, but it's an uncle nonetheless.
Yeah, she establishes that if you weren't married to my aunt, I wouldn't have much to do with you. Probably because you're a total creep. He tries to grab some titty. That was not nice. Yeah.
She slaps him, and then Jai kind of jumps into there as well, and he slaps him around. He slaps the uncle around.
Let's talk about what Jai was wearing for just a second, man. This homeboy comes launching into the scene to protect his woman's honor, and he is dressed like they must have had a genie bottle off camera that they rubbed to manifest him. He's wearing bright red, billowy Aladdin pants and this gold frock, deep plunging neckline vest. I was howling with laughter. And at this point, I just kind of like, okay, this might be culturally insensitive of me, but it's just too funny. The guy looked like Aladdin.
Yeah. He slaps the uncle so hard at one point that I thought the uncle's mustache was falling off. It looked like it was on crooked, but I know it's probably a real mustache, but it just looked fake.
He slapped his real mustache sideways. He's got a big curly. His uncle even has the curly mustache of a classic villain, and of course the uncle informs him that beating the ass, severely beating his ass too. By the way, just bouncing him off rock walls is a punishable offense. And so we just hard pivot into the court day.
Oh yeah, we go to the mansion courthouse. It's a mansion courthouse, of course.
Yeah, everything is splendor.
And we learned that, of course, Jai is on trial now because he'd assaulted a royal. Well, I mean, it's assault and battery, anyways, but it's especially frowned upon when a commoner assaults a royal person.
Well, it's like you pretty much are under the impression that, much like in the West, that if you're a sheep herder, that you have much less legal budget than a royal family. So you know he's going to get his ass handed to him. The star witness is Shivagi, and she comes in with her eyes downcast, looking all just stinking of guilt. So you know this is not going to go well for our. So they they asked Shivagi, "Do you know this guy? Is this your friend?" And she basically says, "No, I don't know this cat that well. He's obsessed with me. I keep telling him I'm not interested, and he beat the hell out of my uncle, who is a nice guy."
Yeah, my uncle saved me, and Jai beat him up, and that's pretty much what it was. She pretty much sold out Jai in the courtroom.
Yeah, and Jai just goes into histrionics. How dare you? And he is just deeply wounded. So was I. We are wounded for Jai at this point.
And this is where we flash back forward into, I don't know if we're flashing forward into our modern thing or if we're flashing forward more.
It's kind of a Russian doll of timelines. Like they bounce around so much, it's hard to tell if you're in the current continuity. I think we're in real time here now.
Okay.
But Shivaji visits Jai herself. She's the uncle couldn't make it happen, so she goes to visit him.
Yeah,
and beg.
Yeah, so she comes to beg Jai for his help to help her dumb prince husband. and at that point in the movie, I was like, if I was Jai, I'd tell her to go pound sand, But
yeah, I spent 5 years, and they even called it rigorous imprisonment. So yeah. I think that he probably got his butt rigorously filled. Hopefully that didn't happen to poor Jai. Hopefully he had enough magic to thwart off some unwelcome uncut penises being pointed in his direction.
Well, we know he has some fighting skills, so we should make an off movie that's basically that Jai in jail for 5 years and the trials and tribulations he went through.
Didn't for some reason when you said that, it reminded me of the Wishmaster. I think that there was a Wishmaster movie where he was in jail, causing all kinds of mischief, and it's got an odd parallel because he's basically an evil genie. These movies share the same universe. Oh my God!
Wishmaster 1920. Wishmaster 1920. Oh my God! It's there. We can make our own.
It's currently in production.
I'm going to start writing fan fiction right now.
You need to get on it because I think the producer is probably penning it if he's got people listening to this podcast. Fingers crossed. Oh, it'd be a crowning achievement for.
So Jai agrees to help the princess and save the Prince Veer, as we call him. But he said he's going to take payment. He's going to pretty much take it out of their royal asses.
Yeah, like y'all. I need to make up for my altruism just a moment ago.
And they arrive back in London at the Mansion Hospital, and we see that the prince is all kinds of fucked up. I think they originally thought the doctors thought he had tetanus, and at this point I'm thinking that is one hell of a tetanus infection. He is ricked up like rigor mortis, limbs poking out where they shouldn't be poking.
Just fingers bent back on themselves, skin black, like he's just got some kind of malignancy under his skin, and just in a painful state of rictus. So Jai does some kind of weird incantation to kind of basically demonstrate that this isn't just some regular, infection you can fight off with antibiotics.
Well, he lets us know also that, spirits love liquor and meat. He specifically says that spirits are attracted to liquor and meat. So he goes and finds these things. He finds liquor and meat and draws the spirit out into the open.
Yeah, and it's and yet another. This movie tries to keep you entertained. Like if you're starting to drift for a second, you're given some eye poke. Like I don't know what he's got, some kind of mystical totem. Then he waves it over the inert Veer's head, who immediately pops up. His eyeballs roll like casino
Prince
rolls.
Crazy Eyes.
And then he crab walks. He does the upside down ring crab walk
Yeah.
up the steps and finds himself a pile of meat and just starts wolfing it down. And we see in his shadow that he's got the evil witch spirit shadow in him. And of course, everybody's convinced. Even the skeptical doctor is sold at this point.
And I should point out that the skeptical doctors did. I think the doctors were ADR'd.
What do you mean now?
It looks like even though it looks like white English doctors that are there, it sounds like their voices were dubbed.
Yeah,
by
poorly.
Yeah, dubbed by an Indian English speaker. And
yeah, it's like, I have told you, how many times must I say it? You still believe in magic. This is odd. It was that stilted.
Yeah, it was really weird, but it was just kind of a weird aside from the English actors, because they're supposed to be in London. You think whoever the English actors they have would just speak
in an English accent. Like
right.
The costumes look like they went to the mall, the current mall, for half of the people, and then the rest of them are kind of sorta in period garb, but not quite. Like the wardrobe needed a little bit of work to actually put us in the timeline it was supposed to take place in. Like Shivajee specifically looked like they just said, just wear a cute outfit, you know.
Yeah, something from the closet.
Yeah, something that makes my legs look good. Yeah, man.
But we do learn that the source of this evil spirit was the locket and amulet that was given to Veer from a rival family.
Oh, yeah, the way we learn about this is kind of odd. Like Jai says to Shivaji, did you get any kind of blessed item lately? And she's like, I can't think of anything. Oh, wait, I just thought of this. I did just think of this ridiculously huge, out of place locket that somebody gave it to us. And he's like, who gave it to you? And she's like, don't worry about that, but we got it. And I didn't realize at the time how heavy handed and necessary it was to know that. So he looks at it and he picks it up, and then he shows her his palm, and there's black ash on it, which she gasped. And I'm like, okay, it's just dirty, but all right.
Jai just needs to clean his hands, and y'all need to polish up that amulet. It'll be fine.
I bet he only washes his hands with antibacterial holy water.
But yeah, you're right. Jai holds it, and his hand turns ashy, and then he comes up with this cockamamie plan to throw the amulet into the river Thames, while the princess chants mantras and she can't stop until like 3 a.m.
There's a real specific time.
It's very specific, and like I said, it's cockamamie. I don't know, that's an old world kind of expletive or whatever, but I just can't think of it because it's just so dumb. And you see as they start this whole process that Jai gets into the car, which is driven by a chauffeur. But it'd be funny if Jai just took off in his car with the ambulance and said, "See ya, suckers, eat a dick."
They take off. Jai's plans. I find it hilarious that no one questions it, because it's exactly as ludicrous as you have to say "Mekaleka Heiny Ho" over and over and over again. I know that's not the actual incantation she was saying, but that's what I made it in my head because it was hilarious and charming. And, well, he goes on this elaborate, okay, now I'm going to get in the car and then I'm going to drive across town with your chauffeur, and we got to get to the river here. And the driver bangs his head, and oh my God.
They crash the goddamn car. There's always something. And that plays another part stupidly later. But
never hire yourself a white limo driver. That's another thing I loved about this movie. It's like, get the white assistant to drive us around. Get the white man. He'll do anything.
So yeah, the princess is chanting, doing her chants, and Jai's in the car getting, they crash the car, and Jai has to run now down the streets of London to get to the banks of the River Thames. The princess is continuously trying to chant in the house, but she's being assaulted by the spirit the entire time.
Yeah, the ring spirit, the witch. They call her the witch. She just imagine a black inky ring character. She looks right out of the ring. And her husband shows up and he's like, "Hey, honey," he
Oh
looks
yeah.
normal, and she's like, "Oh, I guess I can stop chanting now." And then she looks at the clock and it's like, "Oh, fuck no, it's it's not time yet. I needed to keep chanting." So she
Yeah.
fucks it up.
Yeah, she totally fucks up the entire thing. You're like, oh, come on. This is the oldest trick in the book. Haven't you been part of any kind of exorcism? Didn't you hear about 1920?
Just watch that movie. It's like it's your guide for how to survive this one, or basically any movie, much less a horror movie. So it turns out that the incantation didn't work, and we get a real major plot twist at this point.
Yeah, so this is a major plot spoiler, and we see. So we know that Veer wasn't really alive or wasn't coherent at the time, and Shivangi was basically tricked by the spirit. She didn't do the chant, but I don't think that mattered anyways, because I think Jai just told her to do something to keep her occupied and scared while he went and disposed of this amulet into the River Thames. And as he's about to throw it in, we learn
That he orchestrated the whole thing, all of it. He got the cursed necklace into her hands. He contrived all of it, and he's cackling like a fucking madman. And he actually starts bashing his skull into this concrete embankment. I was like, Jesus Christ! Like he was just bleeding and chanting and laughing, and he throws the big important part of this is that, well, first of all, we learn that he's a bad guy, and then he throws the necklace into the river, and he says, "There's no way for you to save Veer now because I've disposed of the necklace." Which, that's what evil geniuses do: is they explain the plot to themselves when they're all alone.
and that's exactly what was going on. He was just talking to himself, kind of giving some exposition on why he was doing it, and I thought it was brilliant myself.
I was transfixed at this point. Yeah, and we actually it says intermission at this point, and which was a weird part in just a smorgasbord of weirdness. Like, okay, in a Netflix streaming context, I don't see how intermissions really matter anymore. But okay.
And usually intermissions last, come up probably around the hour and a half mark or the 2 hour mark. But this movie wasn't a full 2 hours. So this is about an hour and 5 minutes in. They decided to do an intermission, but there's only about 45 minutes left in the movie. So I'm like, okay.
I think it's because they know that you're going to need to take a break and decompress for a second, because we're about to throw so much plot at you that your eyeballs will just bolt out of your head.
And we learn. I mean, I at this point in the movie, I was like, now this is badass, because they finally found a real villain. I thought, okay, so Jai is this really evil genius exorcist dude that's taking out his revenge on his ex-love because she sold him out in the courtroom. And I thought we were gonna
compelling in that way, because we felt kind of betrayed by that act too at that point. It's like, yeah, get her.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. I was like, yeah, get her. And then I was thinking, oh, she'll probably overcome it in the meantime, or uncovers deception through a series of hidden clues and deduction. But
and at this point, we should have learned that trying to anticipate anything that these movies are going to do is folly.
Absolutely.
So Jai continues with his ruse at this point. He's still pretending that he's trying to get Veer excised, to get the demon excised out of Veer. Excuse me. So yet another just elaborate ritual. He rolls a lemon around and over Veer's inert form again, and then he pilots this ball around with remote magic control, and and Shivagi chases it around hilariously like a cat chasing a laser pointer.
I'm sorry, I'm just laughing because this is another point in the movie where I was just laughing because I know that now I know that Jai is this evil villain, and now I know he's just fucking with everyone.
Yeah. I'm surprised at some point he didn't say, okay, in order for this ritual to work, you got to be completely nude. Really? Yeah, I'm sorry. You got to be completely nude. You got to wear a silly hat and be nude.
He's got Shivangi roaming around this mansion, chasing after a lemon, getting spooked by shit. And every time he does his magic remote control thing on his palm, 'cause he's got like a Star of David kind of inscribed on his palm for some reason. And
It's
every,
I notice the same thing in anime. They do that.
right, and every time every time they go back to him looking at his palm sitting on this chair, it has this music stinger. And it does it several times, and I was just rolling. I know it probably wasn't meant to be funny, but I just found it amusing.
I can imagine watching this movie with Indian people that are riveted and just being just horrified that you're laughing at it. Just kind of hard not to. But I mean, honestly, it was out of love for the movie, because there wasn't a moment of this thing that I didn't enjoy. But basically at this point, I can't remember why. You don't even have to question the whys at this point. Jai says, okay, I'm going to have to go and speak to Veer's family. I need to go. He says to Shivajee, I got to go talk to your in-laws. And she's like, all right, so I'm going to go jump on a train, and because I need to find out why so-and-so gave that locket to you. And then after she's gone, he's like, hey, what? Shivajee thinks about it for a second. She's like, I never told him that. So she's clued into the fact that this is this is not on the level.
Yeah, so Shivagi just has the light bulb goes off above her head, and she realizes she didn't give some of the information that Jai told her. So she knows there's some kind of conspiracy at play here.
Yeah, so she knows that he's up to no good, so she rushes off to the train station to intercept him, and they confront one another, and Jai admits, yeah, I wanted revenge on you because I hated you for for me having to fight off angry prison rapists for the last 5 years.
And I thought he also had another motive. I think he wanted to play the hero part, that if he could try his best to save her husband, but eventually he would be taken and die, that he would eventually get back with Shivangi, so that she would love him again.
And oddly, she's not too cool with this. But he gets a slap to the face, and then that's about the length of it. She explains after she slaps him in the face, which he deserves more than a slap at this point.
Probably another prison sentence.
Yeah, like now you've earned the next 5, motherfucker. Which that would be a real complicated court case. It's like, okay, now you're coming in here with demon possession. That's a little bit harder to prove. But
fuck it, 5 years hard labor.
5 years rigorous. What did they call it again? Rigorous internment or whatever. Yes. I don't know. I can't scroll back that far, but. So Shivajee says, okay, the reason I lied in court was because my family was going to have you murdered, and the only way I could keep you alive was to lie, perjure myself, and then get you prison time where you would at least not get murdered.
Right. Oh, well, let me go back just briefly before she came to that revelation that Jai was lying, because Jai takes off to go to the train station, and she's in her bedroom or wherever, and she starts having another happy moment montage flashback of her and Veer, and they're having more goody couple times, and we hear the music start playing, and then the music kind of stops and starts rewinding. It's like, oops, wait a minute. I felt like, oops, wait a minute. We really don't have time for this stupid montage. Let's get back to the story. But I realize now it's just a plot device that she realizes that Jai had said something that didn't gel well with her.
Yeah, she's a very one man at a time lady. Like she into Veer now. This is sorry, he went to prison. I think he got the bug now. I can't be fucking around with you. And plus, I'd be terrified of somebody that's got that much knowledge of black magic. You'd think that the hackles would have been raised by then. But yeah, she realizes that he's not on the level. And after it comes out, they have this odd emotional standoff at the train station, and Jai feels bad about what he did when he realizes that she lied on his behalf. So then he's like, okay, I'm going to figure out a way to correct this problem that I contrived in every way. Like a hero.
Yeah, he pretty much did a 180 from what he wanted to do to becoming a hero. I thought that was a little... Yeah, I was put off by that. I was like, I was kind of hoping Jai would be the real actual villain in the movie, and that we'd see Shivangi actually do something instead of really reacting.
Yeah. It's it kind of hurdles you to the next part of the movie, and there's a lot of that in this. Just like I said, just a machine gun of plot developments that you just have to be like, okay. I had to stop the movie and rewind it and rewatch it because they throw so much at you so fast.
Yeah, I had to pause it several times just to take in what they threw at me.
Because I can't speak Hindi, so I couldn't take notes and listen at the same time. It was we suffer for you.
Well, they capture so Jai has this his first initial plan to try to get rid of the spirit to save Veer is that they capture the dark spirit essence into kind of a Coke bottle or something.
Yes.
And they go to a cemetery and he buries it into the dirt of the cemetery, and some weird shit starts happening again.
Yeah, we get some more of the birdemic birds.
More birdemic birds, yes, come down and just kind of squawk and just more of a nuisance than really assaulting anyone.
Hey, hey! They're just yelling in his face.
But we see like the statue kind of come to life, and there's weird sounds, and all of a sudden the bottle explodes that was in the ground, and the spirit is released again, and we see a killer action scene of Jai getting thrown around, and
yeah, he gets pummeled by this spirit, which begs the question: if it can do this much damage to you without a body, why does possessing somebody outside of just being an asshole? Why is it important?
That's a good question. We can never understand the motives of evil, though, Clay.
Yeah, that's right.
Or Indian filmmakers.
Guys have a real foggy moral code with the poltergeist.
But yeah, Jai gets his ass thoroughly handed to him. He gets lifted high up there, and then he's screaming the entire time. And then he gets slammed down in this tomb, and he's still going. I just thought his crying was pretty funny too.
He was crying like a bitch. Yeah,
I say the same thing.
What it is she just ruffled his $200 shirt, which he.
Do you know how much this is going to cost to get dry cleaned? Ah!
Yeah, man, the dude really does look like one of those guys that you would see at a club that doesn't have a real good sense of boundary when it comes to people. That's how he looks to me. That's not how he is. That's how he.
Okay, and then of course we know that method did not work. So Jai is really perplexed. He's looking out the window, saying to himself, I have to consult my guru, the one Jai learned all his guru-ish stuff from.
It's kind of like Dragon Ball Z. There's no level of more powerful people. Like, I got to go see my mentor. So he goes, and it's a brief scene, but it's just hilarious. We meet his guru that looks exactly like Gandalf. Like, he looks like somebody at a comic book convention doing some outdated cosplay of Gandalf. Lord of the Rings.
All right, so Gandalf Guru is an exact replica of the Lord of the Rings, and I'm thinking,
yeah, he doesn't even look that Indian to me. He just looks like Gandalf, and he informs Jai that you'd think he'd be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Like when he found out like what Jai did, like I taught you better than that.
Well, he pretty much did. He did pretty much tell Jai that he fucked up, but he's like, "But I'm gonna let you know what you need to know."
But on the DL, you're gonna have to commit some hero suicide to make this shit okay. Which is I hate hero suicide. It's in every bad movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the stakes have to be really, really high. And does the hero deserve it? It's a very big storytelling quandary.
Yeah, and Jai is a very morally ambiguous dude. He feels the same amount of he's a passionate guy. He feels the same amount of passion for his vengeance as he immediately does to undo his vengeance. The guru tells them that they need to go to a place that people used to worship. That's the next kind of shove you out the door plot exposition.
And this is another part that I thought was funny. Jai, Shivangi, and George the limo driver all kind of just standing outside on this balcony. And Jai is telling Shivangi what the guru told him. And he's like, there's a a broken church? Is there a place where people worship? And she's like, I don't know. I don't know. And they probably did that for about a minute before George, the limo driver, pops up. Oh, you mean I don't know of any churches except for the broken one on the hilltop over.
the deserted one. It's like, okay, thanks, George. George is about the most useless thing ever.
He's not useless. He's the one who drives them everywhere.
Of course, what you mean wrecks them everywhere?
He wrecks them. He's the worst limo driver in the world because they take off again with George at the wheel, Shivangi and Jai in the back seat, and we're treated to another lovely song and music and montage.
In a baffling turn of events, the car jostles a little bit because George is a shit driver, and Shivajee and Jai kind of fall into one another, and there's a moment of sexual tension. And I was thinking, like, you should want to cut this guy's head off and play soccer with it for what he did. Like, what an asshole. Like, this poor girl, as between her family and this hoodoo motherfucker, I would never want anything to do with any human being ever again.
And during this montage scene, George's stupid fucking car breaks down, and
because his dumb white ass doesn't know how to put water into the radiator. This guy sucks, man.
He's horrible. They should have fired him long ago. But George doesn't even go off to find water. Jai takes it upon himself to take the goddamn water gallon thing and go fill it up himself.
Yeah, like, this guy is useless. Like, I'm asthmatic. I can't walk up that hill. Like, you just sit here and be useless, George. Yeah, they need to make a movie just about George. So, yeah, Jai goes and gets water for the car.
So this is another. I'm just kind of nitpicking now. We don't really need to go into this, but it's so ridiculous because you see him go off, and the music is still playing this happy music, and he gets water, and he comes down the hill, and he falls, and he trips, and Shivangi looks at Jai going, oh! And he gets up and brushes himself off and comes down, and you see him do every step of putting water into the radiator. I'm like, oh my God, do we need to see all of this?
I know, and she's just getting, like, soaked watching this guy do this. You can tell that she's just beside herself with arousal. I don't know. I'd be offended if it just wasn't so weird. I wouldn't be offended. I'm unoffendable.
And so they stop at I think it's even part of the montage itself. They find a church, but it's not a broken church. She just wants to go in and light a fucking candle.
And there's 7 million watts of candle power lighting this thing. And I thought that they were at the actual church for a second.
Too,
and I was thinking, what, you're taking scenic stops in between churches when it's been established that we got a very finite timeline. How about you guys quit fucking around?
I was saying the same thing. I was like, okay, now that they're at the church, and nope, that's not the church. They still have a little bit more to go. I was like, God damn it, man, let's go.
Let's get there. Come. So they make their way to the church, and they find an old lady, an old gypsy there who speaks in that same weird, stilted, like After Effects dubbed speech as the doctor. Like, she tells them that she gives them some more plot devices. Here, take these, and they're 3 knives. So here's your 3 knives that are important to the rest of the third act of the movie somehow.
Yeah, and in that stilted voice, we get she's going to give them some knives, but then it flashes, kind of cuts, and now we're in a barn. And this is with Jai, Veer, of course, lying prone on a bale of hay, and Shivangi and the ant.
There's a coconut. He's got all these esoteric mechanisms everywhere. You know what it looks like? It looks like if somebody said, we're going to rebuild the mousetrap machine in quadruple scale, like in real human scale. It's weird. There's like a loom.
So Jai has to stick knives in different shit. So he gives us a full-on explanation of what has to be done with the knives, what the Shivagi's role needs to play, everything that's going to happen, and he really breaks it down. So I'm really glad he did that because I would have had no idea what was going on. But
Oh, it sounds like a nerd describing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons if you give a shit about Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, I got to take the first knife. We got 3 of them. Somehow he knows which one to use. And I got to wedge this knife into this mirror. And the mirror forms a conduit between this world and the spirit world. And you got to keep this knife in there. Otherwise, the connection is broken. And now you got to, and this is all really happens. I'm not making up any of this shit.
yeah, he's step by step explaining what's going to happen.
Yeah, and at this point, you think that somebody would be like, "Man, you've been fucking with me the whole time. It's what are we really doing?"
And the thing part is, it's like when he asked Shivagi to hold a fucking coconut, I'm like, okay, this is the point where we know Jai is fucking around and he's not really gonna do anything, is he? This is where we get another plot twist.
He's really is a gentleman because I would have had her in a bikini by now. I'm a friggin' creep, you know. Like it's important to the ritual. It's like, yeah, but why do I have to wear stockings too? Yeah, she's got to sit in front of this mirror with a coconut, and that's gonna somehow keep it's funny because they ask him stupid questions that no normal person would be compelled to ask. Like, well, what happens when she gets into the real world? Well, that's where the coconut comes into play.
Oh, they did explain it because I was laughing the entire time, so and just kind of writing my notes very fast because I guess I missed that line of dialogue.
If the movie was a woman, it would be pregnant with sextuplets.
Sex plotlets.
Sex plotlets,
Ooh.
yes. You got a high plotlet count.
Okay, so Jai goes into the mirror after explaining all this shit because he stuck the knife into the mirror, which opened an opposite mirror world. So anything that happens in the mirror world will happen in the real world.
Yeah, it's for me. Have you ever played Soul Reaver?
No.
Oh, it's a classic game for any dorks out there. It's basically it's like you said. There's this blue world. It's you're in the spirit world because it's blue. And Jai explains, I got to go in here. I got to stab this troublesome witch lady with this third knife. I can't remember what happened to the second knife.
The first knife was jammed into a time. An hourglass. That's what I'm thinking of. Remember, he jabs the knife in the hourglass, and it starts counting down time. So now we know there's a time limit to do this.
There's always a contrived time limit that gets mentioned right before they enter into whatever they're going to do.
Right. And he takes that second knife got stabbed into the mirror, which opened up to the mirror world, and then Jai steps through. Yeah.
Yep. And he does battle with the witch lady.
Yeah, and it's a massive battle. Of course, he gets thrown around everywhere. There's not much of a fight. He doesn't do that much except wave his knife around in a threatening manner while the witch lady just throws his ass against the wall.
Yeah, no, kinetics beat knife, I guess. So he's finally able to. I think that there's some mirrors exploding, and Shivajee is covered in broken glass. So she's just. I was like, oh my god, there's actual shards of glass sticking out of her skin, and she's all bloody. And
I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm sorry.
Because it's hilarious.
That's a good story, Clay.
Yeah, I said, you guys watch this from beginning to end.
No, all this stuff that was happening in the mirror world, like there's a car in there, and of course the Jai gets thrown in the car, the glass shatters, and that's why we see Shivangi covered in glass.
Yeah.
And she breaks the goddamn coconut.
It's like, I told you the importance of this coconut, and you fucked it up.
She fucked up two things that Jai told her to do: the chanting and the coconut. You can't trust her to do anything.
No, she's not a great representation of her gender. I've seen worse. But she could pull it together just a little bit. So, but despite despite some setbacks, Jai is able to stab the witch with this ritual knife, and she explodes in blue confetti.
Yeah, more blue confetti, just like 1920.
Yeah, it's an effect they had in that same post effects suite that they bought. They bought the Birdemic upgrade.
Oh, I want to get that Birdemic upgrade. That sounds fantastic. Only $19.99.
all of my emails are just going to be, it's kind of like on Facebook when you say congratulations, there's just an explosion of confetti. For me, it's going to be Birdemic birds everywhere. Birdemic your profile.
Jai starts making his way back to the real world slowly with building up music, and Shivangi looks at him longingly as he makes his way back towards the real world, and we know something's going to happen because it's going so slow.
Yeah, it's a classic turn your back on the monster thing. That's like, no, Jason's still alive.
And that's pretty much what happens. The witch resurrects herself, grabs Jai by the throat, and throws him back into the mirror world, and she turns around and sees Shivangi and sees the amulet in her hand.
Yeah, and then Shivagi throws it into the fire. How does she dispatch the demon at the end? I forget.
Yeah, so we're seeing her kind of crawl she's starting to go back towards the flame as she notices the witch spirit about to enter the real world, and we see Jai do some super ass Nintendo jumping jack shit and leaps up with a stick and breaks the mirror before the witch can enter, and Shivangi throws the amulet into the fire, which effectively destroys the spirit. Yeah,
that's right. I was kind of mixing some stuff around. So yeah, beaten and bloodied in the spirit realm is where Jai is left to remain. I guess.
Right. So he did what the guru said, that he's gonna do some suicide shit, and that's what happened.
It's the only way to redeem yourself if you're Jai. So we end on Jai having another cheesy, reminiscent montage where he thinks back to all the times gone by of lovemaking with our hero Shivajee.
And that's the last we hear from Jai as he's stuck in the mirror world. Then we flash forward 2 weeks later.
Yes, and I totally forget this part, so you're going to have to help me here.
Okay, so Shivagi and Veer, they're both packing to leave London, I think. They're going to go back home, and she finds a note, and it turns out the note, we can jump back just a little bit, that to enter this astral plane Jai wanted to get to consult with his guru, he had to write these notes. And as he was consulting with the guru, he was writing down all this stuff that he was supposed to do to save Shivangi and Veer. And that's the note that they find, and Veer reads it, and it's discovered that obviously Jai willingly gave his soul to the witch in order to save Veer and Shivangi. And so
and he puts a picture of Jai up on the mantle along with the other family pictures to be like, normally I wouldn't have my wife's ex up on the mantle, but the homeboy was all right at the end. He helped correct the fire. He helped put out the fire that he set. That's basically 1920 London. I'm sure that made a ton of sense to the outside person listening in.
Well, the fun of it is that hopefully people have seen the movie and they could follow along with us and maybe agree, disagree. There's probably some things we got wrong. I'm sure there are.
I'm sure the timeline was so fractured. It was so just constipated with plot, but that was kind of part of its charm. I absolutely love this movie. Not despite its foibles, but because of them.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the film, and like I said, that after the first half, when I saw that Jai was an evil person, or was not an evil person, but he was becoming a villain, I was really, oh shit, I'm really into this now. And then it just kind of fades off during that last act, but it was still enjoyable nonetheless.
Next up, we have the shark movie, 47 Meters Down. A couple of entitled white girls go and hang out with sharks, and you already know the rest of what's going to happen, but we're going to watch it and review it anyway.
The star power for 47 Meters Down is Mandy Moore. We're getting
Mandy Moore? That's her?
Yeah, Mandy Moore is one of the girls that goes down, I bet.
I was distracted by the star power of Mr. Modine makes
that's right.
Cameo. And you could just and we'll get into it, but yeah. Sometimes you need a paycheck.
Okay, so thanks everyone for joining us on another episode of Cinematic Suffering. I am Jason.
I'm Clay.
And we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Peace.
Hey everybody, Jason here from Cinematic Suffering. I just wanted to remind you to check out Cinematic Suffering on Twitter @Cinematic Suffer, also on Facebook under the same name, Cinematic Suffering. Clay is an excellent cartoonist and funny man, obviously, so check out his webcomic, hboyz.com. That's HBOYZ.com. If you're up for some music, check out my bands, Gravehill and Stygian Crown. And if you're listening to this on iTunes or whatever your favorite app is, make sure you give us a 5-star rating, because why not, right? Thanks again for your support and for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.